Hello and good day. Welcome to Deal Junkie, brought to you by CREE. It is, wow, interesting times, amazing times, and very thankful that you are here with us today. So, just want to talk to you just a little bit about what we're doing. I'm your host. I'm Troy Muljat. I am the founder of Deal Junkie, co-founder. I am a certified commercial investment member. I'm a CPM member of a variety of different associations around the U.S. and internationally. And I'm an investor. I'm a broker, an appraiser, and a property manager. So welcome, welcome. I want to introduce to you today Kent Thomas, who we're going to be interviewing. And Kent, welcome. Welcome to Deal Junkie.
Hello.
How are you?
Can you see me okay?
I can see you perfect. Yeah,
Okay.
see you perfect. Yeah.
Good.
So we're gonna just have a quick little chat here and talk briefly just about you and what you have done as an investor. You and I have known each other for a long time, and welcome to Deal Junkie. So you're an investor. You own commercial real estate, apartments. Tell us a little bit about what type of assets that you own.
Well, we started in we did a little bit of residential stuff in the beginning with a partner of mine. He was a residential builder, and somehow we ended up building some fourplexes, and that just kind of went on to developing more units and more units. And we have about 6 projects now with about 150 units in them. But over the years, we've done everything from ground up residential subdivision to building houses to the apartment buildings. And then in the later years, I say the later years, I guess that's only been the last 10 or 15 years, I've gotten involved with another partner in some commercial real estate ventures.
Cool.
Building small neighborhood centers in smaller towns.
Cool. Awesome. What one of the things that we teach at CREE is just the 4 different reasons investors buy real estate. Obviously, for cash flow, for principal reduction, for tax and depreciation benefits, and then also appreciation. I'm sure all of those are important to you, but if you had to name one, what is the most important to you?
Well, at my current age, cash flow is the most important to me. In my younger years, principal reduction. My answer would have been principal reduction.
Yeah.
But, they all add up with each other because the principal reductions adds to the better cash flow later down the road.
Sure.
And that's ultimately what we wanted to achieve when we set out, was to reduce principal, never get over leveraged, and have cash flow at the age we are now.
Leverage is probably more important today than ever, whether you're over levered or under levered in this market. Obviously, we've got a virus going around today, and the economies of the world and the U.S. are shutting down. And that's putting pressure on whether tenants can pay rent. We've just come up with the first of the month, and tenants are paying. Not all of them though. So being leveraged, over leveraged, can sometimes hurt you, especially in a time like this. Can you? What's your philosophy on reserves? How many months of reserves do you have, and has that changed?
Well, I've always been one for having more reserves than I probably thought I needed. However, I think that has changed dramatically in the last month on what my opinion of reserves is. Had I been able to foresee this, which of course no one could, I would have had a minimum of 1.5 to 2 years in reserves. As it is, I'm probably about 9 months to a year in reserves. That's if nobody paid at all, and I had to pay all the expenses. I could carry it for about 9 months, which is pretty good, and certainly would cover anything outside of what we're currently seeing.
Yeah.
I think that people that experience this in the investment market are going to have a whole different look on reserves. I would hope.
Mm, yeah, that's for sure. Kind of
I
like
would,
the banking industry really was forced to put in a lot of reserves back in 08, 09 with banks shutting down and going under. They were clearly leveraged and over leveraged some, and they shut down or were taken over. And they're probably healthier today than they have been in the last decade. But when for investors that maybe are borrowing from next month's rents to pay last month's mortgage, could be some tough sledding ahead.
yeah, yeah. I think those that are over leveraged, they may luck out this time with the federal government bailing them out. But this is a very untypical thing. Down the road, these bailouts won't be there. Uh, and if you're over leveraged, even in times of recession, you could get in trouble real quick.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure.
So,
We've
so I
been
think that principal reduction portion of it, uh, to where you get, for example, we're at about, well, on the values that were there in January. I'm not sure what they are right now, but we were 35% loan to value, which is pretty good, and it puts you in a pretty good position, provided, of course, the banks are loaning money at the time if you need it.
yeah.
So, yeah. Now that doesn't mean that the tax benefits and depreciation aren't equally important, but to answer your one thing, it would have been principal reduction at a younger age. At my age now, it's cash flow.
Yeah.
But the principal reduction has achieved that cash flow.
That's for sure. Yeah. I mean, and I think cash, we always say cash is king and cash flow is super important. And so that may play into, whether you've levered the property. 30% loan to value is pretty low loan to value. A lot of people, when they're buying a property, maybe you're putting 20 to 30% down and having loan to value somewhere in that 70 to 80% loan to value. Doesn't leave a lot of room for a major black swan event like we're seeing today. So
I don't
more
think just a
cash.
black swan.
Yeah.
I don't think just a black swan event. I think just a regular recession.
Mm-hmm.
If you go, well, I guess the last recession wasn't a regular recession, but you get to the point where the banks have no money to lend and they reappraise your property and you don't meet the criteria and you have to come up with a cash infusion. You can't do it. So,
Yeah, those loan documents that you don't always read all the way through sometimes come back because there are debt coverage clauses, and if your DCR falls below a certain ratio, a lot of DCRs we see around 125, 130, meaning $1.25 to $1.30 of net income to your debt is kind of where they're at. I know your debt coverage ratios are a lot higher than that,
yeah.
but doesn't leave a lot of room with there's only 25-30% spread in a market or in a recessionary time.
Yeah. Yeah. Much less a black swan event like we're having right now.
Yeah, for sure. Would you say that you're a buy and flip investor, or are you a long-term hold investor? I know the answer to this one, but I want you to answer.
Well, I've always been well, we've built all our properties. We haven't bought them. So we're really a build and hold. And we do it for the long-term gain and the depreciation and the future cash flow. But that's our way of looking at it. There's lots of different ways to look at it. We've never over leveraged. We've paid as we've gone, and it's paid good benefits for us. But that was our long-term goal was that. Now my partner is 15 years older than me, and so he's going to be 80 now, and he's enjoying a large check every month as a result of what we've done by holding. Now we didn't take any money out. We kept our day jobs the whole time that we built for the first 30 years, and we never took any money out of the properties. We focused on principal reduction, and so we were able to bring these down. I did have one life event that cost me dearly, a divorce. So otherwise, our properties would be paid off right now over that 30-year, 25-year period. Unfortunately, my divorce cost me. I had to rebuy the property. So at the peak of the market last time. So our plan was pretty good and still is pretty good, but we're down to 30% loan to values, whereas we would have had them paid off on our build and hold scenario.
Yeah, but even through a life event, a recession, a major life event like you were discussing, I mean, you still have really low, you have very envious loan to values. You've got phenomenal cash flow. You have equity that you could pull out if you wanted to go and buy invest.
Yes.
My suspicion is you're just at a different stage of life where you're happy paying those down and having low loan to values and being relatively risk adverse, at least at this stage, with that particular your multifamily portfolio, and that's good. I mean, I think that you have bought, so to speak, the land, built those buildings, and then held them long term and never sold. I know you've been asked hundreds of times
Many.
to sell those.
Got a letter today, actually.
Oh, really? A letter?
Yeah,
a letter today. Yeah.
I get them
So
every month.
every month someone wants to buy those things. Yeah, they're really important. So we're actually gonna go ahead and run the numbers at Deal Junkie. We love to run the numbers. That's how people learn. So we're gonna go ahead and we're going to run the numbers on your one of your properties here. So let me just share my screen. And actually, this is the property, Taylor Place. This is 15 units. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
15 units. And what we're going to do is we're going to run the numbers on this. We're going to pretend like you're buying the property, okay? Because every time you get an offer, you're really buying the property again, I always like to say, because you have the opportunity to sell at that time. So what we can do, and again, if you go to crecalculator.com, for those of you that aren't familiar with the tool that we have, you can actually run your analysis here. So the property is Taylor Place, and we're just going to go to the next step. This is 6 steps, and we're going to create an entire pro forma. And so you've got some 1 bedrooms there, Kent. And I believe
we have three of them.
You've got 1 bedrooms. You got 3 1 bedrooms, and they're about how many square feet?
They're about 520 feet.
520. And what is the current market rent for those?
Around $800.
$800 a month. And then we're going to add another unit type. You've got some 2 bedrooms, correct?
Yes, there's 12 2-bedrooms.
12 2-bedrooms. And how many square feet are those?
768.
768. And what is their market rent today?
Anywhere between 11 to 1200. Say maybe 1150.
We'll say 1150 then for this analysis. So we'll run that analysis. So again, in Deal Junkie, we just sit down and we put in the information. You can actually just put in the total monthly income, or you can build it by providing the details as you see here. So we've done that for Kent's 15 units. So we've got 1 bedroom. We got 3 of those, $528, $800 a month. We've got some 2 bedrooms at 768 square feet, and there's 12 of those at 1150. And that total annual income is about 16.2 a month, about 194,000 a year. Does that sound right, Kent?
Well, yeah, but in addition, we get $30 per month per person to cover utilities.
Okay, you do get utilities. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and we'll kind of factor that into the expense ratio as well, and we'll keep it simple for now. So what would you say the current vacancy is in your market?
0.
0. Okay.
Has been 0 for a number of years.
It has been 0 for a number of years. So we'll go ahead and put in, 0. We're going to put in 1%. There's always, you got to turn those units. Do you mind if I put in 1%? Kind of think of the appraiser mentality here.
Well, if I think of the appraiser mentality, I'd go higher than 1.
Okay. Well, what would you say then? What's a reasonable stabilized vacancy?
3.
3%. Okay. Now we're talking. I appreciate that. So as we go ahead and build this analysis here, you'll see off to the side here that the property income here is $194,000 a year, and we're doing this annually. We're running the vacancy, which again, Kent and I just discussed, really effectively 0%, but we're putting it in at a stabilized number to be able to prepare for any other nuances and issues Potentially that might go up. You never know. And so that gives us an adjusted NOI before we have expenses. So now we can put in your expenses, which is step 3, and we can provide all the details, or we can just do a percentage. And so do you know the monthly expenses, or do you know about what percentage they are, Kent?
Yeah, I would say probably 30% because we are collecting back for the utilities at
Okay.
this point. We just started doing that last year, so.
Great. So we're going to pop them in at 30%. When we hit the tab button, it actually factors them to be about 58 grand a year. And again, that is starting to build our analysis here. So it looks like your NOI is roughly about 130 grand. Does that sound in the ballpark for
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
sounds good.
great. So here's the $1 million question: is what's the cap rate? What do you or
Last month or this month?
well, let's just say last month. Let's go ahead and just say what would you sell for today? Maybe that's a better question.
Well, as you know, I'm not a seller, so
I tried. See?
but probably anywhere a 5 and a 5.5 cap rate, based on last quarter, not this coming quarter. But obviously that's going to go up.
And again, maybe this is a better way to look at this is like, hey, you're kind of analyzing your own portfolio. You're putting this in, what's it worth, So at a 5 cap, looks like about 2.6 million is the value. Obviously, if we were to, and this is just a scroll bar here, if it was a 5.5 cap, it'd be somewhere around 2.4 million. Down to maybe a 4 3/4 cap, might be as high as 2.7, 2.8. So five cap is about 2.6. Does that sound correct?
Well, I would have said yes. I'm not so sure right now.
Yeah, sure.
Because of what we're going through. I think looking forward, for the next quarter, I would anticipate 6 to 6.5 cap rate.
Okay, interesting. So
realistically,
if we were to change that to a 6 cap rate, just so everyone understands, a 6 cap rate drops that value down to 2.2 million. Would you sell today for 2.2 million?
No.
Okay. Well, so it's always it's a hypothetical question. Like, am I a buyer or a seller today? You've got a lot of equity. And so obviously if you were to go to the bank and pull out some equity, and if that appraiser did value this thing at say a 5.5 cap, and you only owned say $1 million on this, owned $1 million on this, there's another 1.3 million, 1.4 million of equity there, and you can't pull all that out. But again, that's just another way to look at it, is your implied equity that you could pull out of the property. And obviously when you refinance and you pull money out, that is tax free. Obviously you've got financing costs and a level of risk that you have to weight there as well. But let's just assume that this is a 5 cap and we're going to move forward at 2.6 million. And I don't know if you'd even sell at 2.6, but we're going to push forward based on the analysis. If you were buying this, one way to look at this is how much down you would put down. I know you've got really low loan to values. Let's just assume that we're going to put 30% down on this property. And today's market interest rates, you got any idea of what interest rates you're looking at when you're refinancing properties?
Yeah, 3.5.
3.5, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's a 30-year amortization typically?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, payments on that would be roughly about $8,000, $8,200 a month. If we were to buy this property and put 30% down, obviously the more you put down, the less your payments are. But this just gives people kind of an idea as to what that loan might be on your particular property with the income. Again, the debt coverage ratio is almost 140, and that is about $1.40 of net income for every dollar of debt service that you have. Anytime you've got a question, you can highlight over here and it'll tell you exactly what those issues, answer those questions as to what each item is. So we're going to move to the next and the last step, which is going to assume some growth. Do you think you're going to see any rent growth here in the next year?
Not in the next year. No. No. If you look at the longer term over a 5-year period,
yeah,
maybe some minimal rent growth. We've had pretty tremendous rent growth over the last 5 years or 10 years even. and it was leveling out as it was. Now, the hit that we're taking here with this virus problem is probably temporary, but I don't suspect that we'll see great appreciation in rent over the next 2-3 years, even 5 years. I would be surprised if it was 1 to 2%.
We'll put in 2% just for this analysis. Do you expect expenses to grow at the same rate or a higher rate?
Expenses always grow at a higher rate.
They do. Should we say
Unfortunately.
3%, maybe 4%? What do you think?
Yeah, I would go 4%.
4%. So
Yeah.
for this analysis, what we're doing here is we're creating a 10-year cash flow analysis based on some projections that Kent's come up with, 2% annual growth rate, 4% annual expense rates. That growth rate number might have been 4 or 5% here a month ago. So I think you're adjusting that for the current situation, correct?
Yeah, and I was also looking at a shorter term than 10 years. If you're talking 10 years, then
and that would be
2%.
every year over 10 years. So it's kind of hard to average that, but
yeah, I just don't know what this. I don't know what this this virus is going to do. How long it's going to be hanging on to us. But yeah, 2% is probably it's going to be an effect for a couple of years.
Let's go with it. The beauty of running the numbers, Deal Junkie, is you can run them 100 times, so we can run different scenarios. But for now, we're going to run with these scenarios. This is a real life today scenario. When we click on the next step, we actually get for Kent's apartment building a nice 10-year cash flow. So what we're looking at here is really what his cash flows are estimated to be over the next 10 years. And then assuming that he sold the building, which of course he said that he's not, we're calculating an internal rate of return. If we were to buy this property today and put 30% down at a 3.5% mortgage, and enjoy 2% rent growth, but expenses growing at a larger rate than income. And so this shows us cash on cash return. Again, with 30% down, we're getting about 4% cash on cash return. With principal reduction, we're getting almost a little over 8.5% in the first year. And then that's growing, taking advantage of principal reduction. And then all the way out into years 10 and 11, he starts to get into the double digits. So yeah, it gives us a good idea. Here is we've got a loan amortization table as well. Internal rate of return essentially assumes that Kent would sell this building at the end of 10 years, enjoy all of the benefits of principal reduction over that 10 years. And then that is discounting that number back to the future and essentially taking in all of these criterias: his current income, his growing income, selling the building at the end of that time period, his fixed mortgage, and depreciating, not depreciating, but reducing the principal over that time period. And so that number is really a number that would assume all of those factors, and it'd be a rate that you would enjoy every single year for 10 years. So it's an artificial number, but it is an indicator that shows you how good that investment is. But a lot of times investors like Kent, they're motivated by other factors, correct?
Troy?
Yeah.
Troy, I'm going to have to leave just for 1 second. I have a signature UPS
sounds good,
that I have
Kent.
to
Sounds
sign
good.
for.
Yeah, we'll keep going until Kent gets back here. Again, just so everybody can understand here, if at any time you want to then go and modify anything on a property, you can come back, click on the property income, the expenses, change the cap rate, come back to the income, modify it. Hey, what happens if Kent could rent these for $900 a month, or get $1,300 a month, or let's just say the market's tanking and he only gets $700 a month? We can modify all of these on the fly and redo the analysis on the fly. So, but again, that final report here, what we were looking at, obviously, we can then put in our information here, PDF this to yourself, and send that analysis to you all nicely laid out. sometimes you don't want to sell at any price because you've got you've got implied equity there. If you sell, you've got tax ramifications. Those are sometimes bigger factors when you've owned properties for a long time period, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You're paying back depreciation. Yeah, it could be, it just doesn't, it's just not an advantage for us to sell. And it was never in our long-term plan to do that. I personally get concerned if I had sold a property and I had X dollars in the bank and that keeps draining down and I'm putting nothing back in. That concerns me.
Sure.
So I like to build accounts, not deplete them.
Sure.
So
the last question I've got for you, and we're almost done, is the one thing that you might tell a new investor that they always need to remember? What would that one thing be?
I don't know if you can settle on just one thing. I would say don't over leverage. I would say that if you're partnering, be sure that your goals, morals, and ethics are the same as your partners, because that's can always be a problem. Very few partnerships survive because they don't investigate those things ahead of time. And I would always remember that the bank is not your friend. As much as you love your banker and how nice they are to you today, when times turn bad, they are not your friend. And be aware of that. Yeah. And then that, principal reduction leads to better cash flow and better positioning for times like today.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So I don't think you can sum it up in just one, but there's four things there.
That's great. No, I appreciate it. And it's hard to answer just with one thing. And especially at a time like this where there are a lot of unknowns. People are freaking out, and there's no doubt that people are concerned, and there's a lot of concerns out there, but you've positioned yourself to really be with the equity that you have to be able to weather that storm. Are you looking for opportunities today, or are you going to wait and see how things settle out?
You're always looking for opportunities. You never turn a blind eye to opportunity in any circumstances.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would always be looking for any opportunity. It would have to be a pretty fantastic opportunity to really perk my interest at this point. Not only because of what we're going through right now with the virus, but because of my age and my future planning.
Sure.
So
great. Well, thank you, Kent, for being with us today. We appreciate it. Kent's up in the Pacific Northwest, as I am as well, and we appreciate you sharing a few of your insights with us today. One thing that we like to remind everybody is that you need to, the work that you do today will prepare you for the opportunities of tomorrow. And I just make sure that you're getting up, that you're looking for those opportunities, that you're communicating with your bankers, that you're talking to your property managers, that you're addressing any other issues that are out there today, that you're openly communicating with those, and you're up and you're working and dealing with stuff. So we really appreciate you, Kent, very much being with us. If people want to check out more with CREE and what we've got, you can go to creebroker.com, and we've got some information on the coursework that we teach, and you can sign up for free case studies and learn more about what we do there. So with that, Kent, thank you very much. Take care, be well, and appreciate you joining us today on CREE's Deal Junkie.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, take care.
Okay.
Stay well.
Okay, bye-bye.